Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people for your Monday, February 26th. Starting off with Fleury Nichushkin. He will be returning to the Colorado Avalanche organization. He's cleared for return. He's been in the player assistance program, so he'll probably have to practice a bit, get ready, but he should be back in the lineup relatively soon. And Colorado could use him. They've had their rough points lately, so yeah, it should be good to see Nichushkin back in the lineup for them. I hope he's 100% better. Woll has been recalled by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, do they carry three goaltenders? Does Martin Jones get sent down? Do they trade Martin Jones? We'll see what the Leafs do ahead of the deadline. Also, Mark Giordano returned at practice today, so that helps with the depth on the blue line, although the expectation is still the Leafs will add blue liners at the deadline. The easiest thing to predict at trade deadline is teams will bolster their blue line. So, contending team, you say, I think they'll add a couple of depth defensemen. You'll probably be right about most of the contending teams that are looking to add depth defensemen. So yeah, we'll see what Toronto does and how the goaltending rotation works, because Samsonov's been pretty good lately. So it should be interesting. April the 21st could be a big day for the PWHL. They, of course, set an indoor record for anybody watching a women's professional hockey game with over 19,000 not too long back, but that record may not last. According to Jeff Merrick's reporting, the Toronto-Montreal game on April the 21st could be held at Bell Center, which seats 21,000 people. So there's the possibility that even if it's not a sellout, if you just get 19,600, something in that region, you could set a brand new record. So the PWHL making good money. People seem to enjoy the hockey. And I think part of why the PWHL has been successful so far is the people that I know that have gone to games, people I know that have talked about it, and all, it's a different audience. And this is what I was always saying, was that the NHL and the PWHL, for them both to succeed, obviously the NHL's going to succeed and remain successful, but for the PWHL to join that rank as a successful league, they would have to have people going to games who wouldn't normally watch National Hockey League games. And people who honestly probably can't afford to go to NHL games. PWHL, it's good hockey, and it's a cheaper ticket. Yesterday in the live stream we did for members and patrons, the question was asked of us, my wife and I, about whether or not we'd go to any PWHL games. The closest team to us, I think, is Minnesota. It's a bit of a trip. So at this point, no. But if there was a team locally, yeah, I would probably go out and check it out. Sure. If it's a slow night in the NHL, why not? But yeah, it's nice to see that the league's doing well. I would think that another year with these 6 teams, once we all get team names for them and see how things are growing or what happens with the revenues and the ratings and everything, and then you might look at expansion. At this point, expansion would be, I think, kind of silly, because again, you want the league to be established and all 6 franchises to be doing well, and then look at potential expansion from there. I would think that you would add Western teams, so probably an LA, maybe a Vancouver, maybe a Calgary, because Calgary's supported women's hockey before, so we'll see. Your 3 stars of the week in the National Hockey League are as follows. Kirill Kaprizov in 4 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. Kaprizov, really Minnesota had themselves a week, didn't they? Mitch Marner's the 2nd star of the week in 4 games, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points. Marner's fantastic. And Shesterkin for the Rangers, the 3rd star, 3-0 this week with a .975 save percentage. I checked, that's pretty good. So Igor doing Igor things. He is definitely back. The New York Rangers, the thing is, like yesterday, right? The winning streak ends with Jonathan Quick. And of course, right away, stupid hockey guy with his jinx. I knew I had 2 choices yesterday. I either do the 10-game winning streak video in the morning, risking that it'll be seen as a jinx, or I do it tomorrow, or do it yet last night when they've already lost their 10-game winning streak, and then there's not much point in me doing the video. So I knew Columbus played them tough, and I thought this, to me, looks like a trap game. Quick's in net, and at least one of those goals, probably not fantastic, probably one Shesterkin would have saved. I do think Igor has reestablished himself as the bona fide starter, which was expected the whole way through. It's not an insult to Quick at all. Igor is one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. Tyler Seguin, who is not one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. Apologies to Tyler Seguin. But he is considered week to week now for the Dallas Stars with lower body injury. It'll be interesting to see how Dallas adjusts to that. Sagan's been playing well lately. So that will definitely have an impact. It means maybe Stankoven gets a little bit more ice time. Maybe he gets a little bit more of a look, maybe on special teams. But yeah, Sagan's going to be out for, and as I keep saying too, when it's week to week, it's 2 weeks or more. Week to week is never just 1 week. Oshie is also seen as week to week by the Washington Capitals. It's an upper body injury for Oshie. Week to week is better than suspected and feared, right? Anytime you see Oshie exiting the ice not 100%, the concern is it could be long term. Oshie does get hurt regularly. It's just it's part and parcel to his career. So hopefully Oshie's back sooner rather than later, because the Caps, who are still clinging to hopes of making the playoffs, they're going to need Oshie. Speaking of teams clinging to playoff hopes, Marc-Andre Fleury again stating when asked by the media, he has to be getting kind of irritated at this point, because I know I reported on this last week, but it's out there again this week, that he's being asked about whether or not he'd accept a trade. And he said if the Minnesota Wild were at the bottom of the West, he would have probably an opinion of, yeah, I wouldn't mind going somewhere and helping a team out at the deadline. But he sees Minnesota as being absolutely in the hunt. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. And he wants to be part of the reason why the Minnesota Wild make the playoffs. So he absolutely wants to stick around. I don't see any reason for Minnesota to make this move right now. Wallstead, you don't need to call him up. You don't need to have him in there. Again, it's a playoff run. I think your better option is to have Gustafsson and have Fleury as your tandem, rather than say have Bystad or trade out, or Wallstead, and trade Fleury and maybe bring in a goal. Like, it's kind of messy if you trade Fleury, I think, if you're trying to stay in the hunt. Fleury to me gets traded if you're not seeing playoffs and you're figuring out we're not going to make it anyways and you don't want to lose him for nothing. It may very well be Fleury's final season, and if it is, he wants to help push Minnesota towards a playoff spot, which means if you're a Wallstead supporter that wants to see him playing NHL games, it'll probably be next year, which could be for the best for Wallstead as well. So let me know how you feel about whether or not Fleury's going to stick around. Will he still be in Minnesota at the deadline? I think yes. But the deadline has been quiet, and it's seen that Calgary, so that's why I went with an Atlanta Flames hat and a Stockford Heat jersey just for something different. Calgary might be holding up the trade deadline at this point. They have Hanifin, Markstrom, and Tanev headlining the TSN trade bait board, which doesn't necessarily mean those are the players that get traded. I always feel kind of bad for people in the media trying to figure out, okay, these are the most likely trade candidates, because when those guys don't get traded, they get roasted. And when other guys get traded that aren't listed in the top 50, they get roasted for that too. It's part and parcel of this time of year, though. So I will be interested to see if any of these players get moved. I get the feeling it could be Hanifin or Tanev. I don't necessarily know if Calgary would move both, because they're 5 points out of the playoffs right now. So they're close enough to the playoffs. And look at that game against Edmonton the other night. I don't think you want to then tell that team, we've decided we're not really pushing for playoffs. We don't see playoffs this year. You might be able to get the players to be okay with that. I don't know if would fans be okay with that if the Flames said, it's not this year. But of course, Conroy said they're not doing a rebuild, so maybe they're going to look for hockey trades. We'll see. But Hanifin, of course, is on an expiring contract. We saw with the Lindholm trade that wasn't necessarily them selling, because they get back Kuzmenko in that deal. So maybe something similar with Hanifin. We'll see. But that it does feel like that's what's holding up the trade market at this point. And we'll see whether or not any of those guys get moved. And again, Markstrom is having an absolutely amazing season. It's a tough call, isn't it? Do you trade him while his value is at the highest, or do you keep him and hope that you get into the playoffs? So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, I would expect that news videos from here until the trade deadline will include trade items in them, although nobody's actually been traded at this point other than Bemstrom for Nylander, which has already worked out pretty well for Pittsburgh. Bemstrom with a goal last night. So we'll see who gets moved or what happens from here until the deadline. But let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you haven't already. And hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.